Morning, good day, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome you to today's presentation of DBA Fundamentals. Today's presentation is called Azure SQL Database for DBAs with the amazing Amina Lalani. Today is August 31st, 2021. In the top right-hand corner of the screen, you'll see the three leaders of the DBA Fundamental Group: Steve Cantrell, Shane O'Neill, and myself, Kevin Wilkie. If you have any reason to reach out to us, you can always do so on Twitter. It is probably the easiest way to get hold of us quickly. In the right below that, you will see that you can get to us on several different places of social media. First one being Meetup, where you can probably most of you actually reached out to us and get a hold of us through there, where we have all of our presentations for each week listed. You can also reach out to us and see us on dbafund.org, where we have all of our previous presentations, as well as many of our upcoming presentations. You can see all of the YouTube videos and whatnot, and any other presentation materials we have available on there. Also, be sure if you have a presentation in mind that you would like to give, reach out to us on there. Or on one of our other media accounts to actually, we can actually get you on here in front of everyone in Excel, just like Amina. Also, you can look out to things on YouTube. We have our own YouTube channel. This link does work for some people. There is also another link, dbafundtube.com, where you can see all of our past presentations. And if you once we put out today's presentation, you'll be notified immediately that you can watch it then and there. So that's one of the big benefits to being on DBA FunTube. So you'll know all that. Also, our Twitter account is @DBAFun. You can see we alert you to all kinds of different things on there, as well as our Slack channel, where we have different conversation going on there, as well as our LinkedIn group. Please reach out to us on any of these different social media accounts to just keep in contact with us. As I stated earlier, these sessions are being recorded and are usually available within 1 to 2 days, where you can reach out to us on our YouTube channel. We also post the links on to any other presentation materials on our website. And so with that, here is Amina's bio, but I am sure she will give a much better bio than any of these words can ever think about describing for her. So with that, I turn it over to Amina.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, everyone, for joining today's talk. Let me share my screen. Yeah, I think. Just hold on a minute. Let me share my screen. Okay, it disappears. One slide forward.
There we go. We see your About Me screen.
That's great. Thank you, everyone, for joining today's talk. Let me just. Today we are going to talk about Azure SQL Database for DBAs. Many of you have heard about the different offerings in Azure SQL Database, or maybe you have played with it, or maybe you are using it in development or production. So that's all okay. Those are all the audience, but the main focus of this presentation is from the perspective of DBAs that they want to learn what will be the experience in Azure once they move from on-prem to there. how they do administration and common stuff there. Since this is a short time, so I will be not going in deeper on any one aspect of the database, but we will see the creation of the database, and then as a business continuity, we'll create a failover group so you can get some taste of Azure SQL. With that, let's move on to the next slide. And here is my bio, and I am a customer engineer at Microsoft, and my passion lies in migrating and upgrading SQL Server on-prem to on-prem, on-prem to Azure cloud. So basically, I help clients with their modernization journey and unblock them wherever they are stuck. Also do some performance tuning and optimization and monitoring. I also am passionate about the disaster recovery, high availability projects. I do some volunteering also, so I will skip this part here, but it doesn't mean it's not important to me. I do a lot of volunteering outside of the in SQL Server community and outside also. So today's agenda, we are going to talk about SQL database and what are the different purchasing models and what are different service tiers. And then we will demo, I will see the demo of creating Azure SQL database. Actually, I'm going to show you the migration from on-prem to SQL database to Azure SQL database. There is some slides on security and then administration. And then finally, we will look at the disaster, talk about the high availability, and we'll do the demo of the disaster recovery also. So with that, let's move forward. So think of all the offerings that Microsoft provides in Azure Cloud for SQL Server as a service. So consider, we are creating an analogy here. So consider pizza as a service. So there are many ways you can consume pizza, right? You can either have it create it from the scratch, right? Knead the dough and put it in the oven. So you're using your oven, your electricity, and then whatever toppings you want. Once the pizza is baked, you serve it on the table, put the drinks out, call the family, and sit down and enjoy pizza. Another way is that you got the ready-made pizza, either got the frozen pizza from the supermarket or you got the ready-made dough. So you are still using your oven to make pizza, and then same thing. Somebody, if they're not talking, please can you mute your mic? Thank you. So you still have to set up the table and set up the drinks and everything and consume the pizza. Third option, get the pizza delivered to you. So in that case, it's the ready-made pizza. All you have to do is set up the table, put your drinks, call your family, sit down and enjoy your pizza. Fourth option is that you go to your restaurant, favorite restaurant, and order the pizza. You don't even have to set up the table. Everything is there. You just pay for the service and you are consuming your pizza. So having this analogy, I think, always helps people understand when we go and talk about the services in the Azure cloud. So for SQL Server, when we say we made the pizza from scratch, think of your on-prem. Currently, if you're on-prem SQL servers, they are you are making a pizza from the scratch. In that, you have your data centers, where your primary data center, and then you have a secondary data center. You have a VMware appliance which hosts different SQL servers. So you are responsible for maintaining, the cost of the data center, the upgrades, the hardware refreshes, and the software and the operating system on them. And then on top of it is the SQL Server and the maintenance of SQL Server, and then the database, right? So you are responsible for everything. So that's your traditional on-prem pizza. Now the next level is that you bought the frozen pizza and you brought it home and baked it. So this is the cloud offering called Infrastructure as a Service, which is basically Azure SQL VM. For you, the experience will be the same as you have on-prem because it's just a VM, right? So what you are not responsible, what vendor is responsible is your oven and your dough. You don't have to create the door or the oven. So you're not data centers or the underlying hardware where your VMs are on. You are your VM, upgrading your, if it's Windows or Linux, whatever, upgrading, patching, and then you install your SQL Server and, and you are responsible for it. So this is like you are bringing in and just making the pizza, not creating it from the scratch. The third option is the platform as a service, in which you have, you don't even have to manage the VM. You are only responsible for SQL instance. So you don't have access to the operating system or the disk level system. So there are two offerings in there inside this. Is one is the Azure SQL database, which we are going to talk about, and other is the Azure SQL managed instance. Managed instance is the instance where you have multiple databases, and just like your on-prem SQL Server, just you cannot run any XP-CMD shell commands because you don't have access to the underlying file system or anything. And software as a service is like you are going out to dine at the restaurant and eating a pizza. This is when you are using any Microsoft application like ERM or ERP or CRM application. Behind the scene, it creates tiny databases. So you are not responsible for anything, SQL Server or the database. You are just there to consume the application, how the application works, right? You are concerned about that. So that is the experience as a software as a service. So that's, we are going to talk about service, and in there we are going to talk about Azure SQL database. So some of the administration tasks that you usually do, you will not be responsible for that. For example, your SQL Server version in the database version, the compatibility level will always be the latest, right? And you will get automated patching. So patching is done for you. Automated backups are available. Disk encryption. So your disks will be on which your database lies is encrypted. TDE is enabled with Microsoft managed keys, and you have a high availability replica available out of the box. It's included in the price. Other maintenance tasks. So if you want to do the index tuning, so Azure SQL database has an option from the portal, from the Azure portal. You can choose if you want to enable automatic tuning, and if you want to the Azure to apply those recommendations, or it just informs you and you apply it, you review and apply it. So there is a lot of flexibility, but you can run your regular in DBCC integrity check, DB index maintenance, and statistics maintenance. But there are a lot of tools that are built in the Azure portal that will give you insight about the query performance and insight about the your database performance as a whole. One thing is that the query store is enabled by default on all Azure SQL or Azure SQL databases. Backups happen. Full backups by default. Full backups is happening every once a week. Differential backup 12 to 24 hours, depending on the activity in your database and the size of your database, and transactional log backup every 5 to 10 minutes. Again, depending on the activity in your database. So let's move to the next slide. So there are a couple of purchasing model, how you purchase the services in Azure. One is the DTU based, the other is the vCore based. Azure SQL database was, when it was introduced as a product in year 2012, the only purchasing model was DTU based. When managed instance came, another PaaS service, when managed instance came in 2018, at that time we introduced the purchasing level vCore also. So now for Azure SQL database, there are two options, DTU based purchasing model or the vCore based purchasing model. For managed instance, there is only one option, which is vCore option, vCore purchasing model. Microsoft recommends that if you are using a DTU model to change it to vCore, and there is just one click in the Azure portal that you can change it from DTU to vCore. vCore has much more flexibility. That's why. So look at here. So when you are in the DTU based, you have three service models here. See three service tiers, or you know, three categories: basic, standard, and premium. And under the standard, you have further subcategories of the levels of the standard. And same thing under the premium. Basic is very lightweight. It is just unboxing if you're just playing and just trying to understand how to you may go basic. In standard, S0 and S1 and S2 are also at the very low end for any kind of your develop or start from S3. Basic, S0, S1, and S2, they have less than one CPU assigned. So DTU is the database transaction unit. It's the combination of several metrics. So it's a memory, IOPS, CPU is combined together with some algorithm, and that's how these levels are set. And also the storage is tied to the compute. So let's say I want more IOPS. My application needs it. I chose 800 DTUs because that's what my needs are. But I don't need that 1 terabyte space. My database don't grow that big. So I have 250 gig, but I will get 1 terabyte and I'll pay for it. So storage is tied to the compute in the DTU purchasing model. But yeah, so that's one thing to keep in mind. Another thing, you can see the size, you get up to 4 terabytes of database size, but you have to be in premium P11 and P15 to get it. Otherwise, you will have a long tiers, list of tiers that. And if you are in lower than that, then it's 250 gig. Backup is every backup is just by default, it will be 7 days retention of point in time. So you can restore point in time, but you can increase that. So if you increase that, you are keeping more copies of your backup. So storage, you pay for it. Storage is not very expensive. Is there any question? Okay. If you don't have any question, please mute your mic. Okay, so by default it's 7 days. You can increase up to 35 days. Business continuity, you have active geo replication is available, and then up to 4 secondary readable replica you can add. That you can add. Security, you can use auditing, row level security, dynamic data masking, and this is advanced threat protection. You pay for this, and this takes care of. I have a slide for it, so we'll talk about it there. And this is built as a transactions per minute, and in the standard, and the premium, because the performance, it provides high performance premium, so that's why it is transactions per second. Premium is for your critical, very low latency work and high throughput work. You will use premium. Your normal day-to-day production work can be in this standard. Okay, the next slide is about the vCore based. So vCore is is also tied. The CPU and the memory and the IOPS are tied, but the storage is not tied to the what vCore level you are purchasing. So storage you can grow separately. So again, in the vCore based, we have three sub service models. One is general purpose, and you can relate to, if you want to compare it with GTU, this is comparable to your standard tier in the DTU. So it is comparable, general purpose, and business critical is comparable to premium in the DTU model. Hyperscale is a different one because of the short time. I'm not going to talk about that. So let's purpose and business critical. Again, most of your workload, SQL Server production workload will fall here. I would say 80 to 90% will fall here. Very, very critical, database. If you have something, you will choose a business critical here. And in here, just look at the single database. You can choose cores from 2 vCores for Azure SQL database to 80 vCores, right? And there is an option of a serverless also, which you can start, and we are not going to talk about that. But so these are all options available for you to save cost. So another option is having an elastic pool for all the single databases that you have, where you define the minimum and maximum resource. Serverless is that whenever your workload comes in, SQL Server wakes up and assign the resources, your work is done, and after some time of inactivity, it will deallocate. So that's also an option of. And in business critical, you can choose same thing, 2 to 80 vCore. Look at the storage. For general purpose, we are using the Azure storage, but it's a premium remote. This is SSD, but it's the remote. And this is in business critical, it's a local SSD. That's why it's provide the sub-millisecond latency. If you hear read, write, IO, if you see here, in general purpose, you get about 2 milliseconds for all data access and less than 0.5 millisecond in business critical. So it's very, very super fast here in there. Another thing to note is the size. Yeah, here. So in single database, the maximum database size can be 4 terabyte. So you just pay for what you want to use. However, your database is now suppose that when your database grow to 1 terabyte, you're just paying for that. It's not like DTU that you are tied to certain storage. So that's the benefit of vCore here. Okay, and then here, backups is the same here. Yeah, this is important. So high availability is for general purpose. It's built in. You get one replica to failover. It is not readable. That replica is there only to failover. So that is no additional cost to you. It's part of the general purpose infrastructure. In business critical, you get 3 replicas, 1 primary and 3 secondaries. One of the replica is read-only, and they are in different zones. So that is also included in the cost. Business critical is much more expensive than the general purpose, but you don't have to build high availability. It's built in. Okay, let's move to the next slide. Let's provision the Azure SQL database. So with provisioning, I am just, it's easy to. And I'm just going to show the migration and how I'm creating a database in Azure SQL. So before that, let me show you where I'm going to create it. So this is my resource group. So resource group is under my subscription. A resource group is the logical collection of all the resources that you're going to use for any project or a team. So if you want to delete it, if I've created 100 objects in there, I don't have to click one by one and delete it. I can just delete the resource group. If I have to give a certain kind of permission that this is only for people to read only, they cannot create object or they cannot delete resources, then I can give that permission on that level at the resource group level. So it's a logical container. So here I have 2 logical servers, logical server east and logical server west. They are also called database server. So remember, I am only migrating one database, not to the managed instance, but as an Azure SQL database, just a database. You are not getting an instance, but database needs to reside on some hardware, right? So that's why you have to create a logical server first here. You are not paying for them, but these needs to be clear. You are paying for the tier you choose for the database, right? So I have two logical server, east and west. So if this is in the east US and this is in the west US, I've just created two logical, and then in there I can create databases here. So I'm going to my database here in the logical server east. So this is the data migration assistant tool. It does the assessment, and this is highly recommended. This tool is very easy desktop tool. Just go and search it, and it's just simple desktop application. I'm just using it for migration for this quick demo for this talk. My source is SQL Server and my target is Azure SQL Database. As you can see, there are other target. In managed instance, this tool does not work. They should have removed it. But other targets, if I want from SQL Server 2016 to 2019, I can choose my target as a SQL Server as well. For our purpose, we are going to there, and then I have an option. I just want schema and data, schema only and data only. Okay, one big thing and this applies only to Azure SQL Database. You cannot use backup and restore. So if I back up and upload my file to Azure Blob Storage and try to restore on that logical server that I showed you, I cannot do that. You have to create export and backpack .basc and import the backpack file, because it is underneath, it is creating generating the script of the schema, and then it is bulk inserting the data. So that's why you see all these options. If I just want to do schema, it is only creating the schema. It will not import the data. If I already have the schema there, then I can just do the data only. So let's just, we cannot go in much more detail than that. Database migration is a totally different topic, but just for this demo purpose, and since I'm using this tool, I'm showing you. Connect to the source. My source is my SQL 2019. So this is on my laptop. Certificate and connect. Once I'm connected, I'm shown all the databases that I can migrate. I just choose one, and you can choose one and remember database. If it was a managed instance or SQL VM, we can select multiple databases. So I go next, and now I want to connect to my target, which is the logical server, which I have here. Logical server east. Copy that name from here and just put in the tool. And I would use a SQL authentication because Windows authentication will not work. Username is correct. And again, encrypt connection and trust certificate. Yeah. So now I will do next. And it is generating. It is preparing the source database schema. So what this tool is doing for migrating, it is doing the .dat backpack and the same thing that you would do. So instead of doing this method, you could have just came here and I could have done go task and say export data tier application. I would have done that. It's doing the same thing. Export data tier application. Once this file, it will generate the .basc PSC, and then I can manually upload it to Azure Blob Storage. And then I can, when I will go in my logical server, I'm connected here, then I can say import data tier application. And it will restore the database here. I could have done, and this way or that way is both take the same. So it found something, right? Fixed opportunity. behavioral change. There's an old join. For this demo purpose, I'm just unselecting this. I'm not choosing it to my text index. So that's why, assessment you need to do first before you migrate. So let's take some time. One database called a TestDB already here. So another database that it is going to come here. So right now it's not, it's just creating the script. When we'll deploy the schema, then it will come here. Okay, so let me show you how to create the database here. So let's say I'm in this resource group. I will create a blank database so it can receive the backpack from the migration. So I will come here and I will say create SQL database. I would choose a correct subscription, correct resource group, and I will give my database a name. Since this is a copy of AdventureWorks 2017, I will just name it like that and choose the logical server. If I don't have a logical server, it allows me to create one. I will choose the logical server East, and you can change this is the important slide, related to our topic that we're talking about. By default, it is choosing general purpose, which means vCore. Suppose I want to be only DTU purchasing model, and I want to go in the standard, then it chooses the S0. So maybe I want it S3, here, and you can see it gives me more storage, 1 terabyte. If I can move, yeah. So you see the prices, how they're jumping here. If I 0, there's $15, and if I'm choosing S3, it is $150. Okay, so this is here shows you that I will get 100 DTUs. So this is the main thing. Another thing in the networking is that add current client IP address. I want to add my laptop IP address so I can then connect to it, right? Security, I'm not configuring additional setting. So it's saying there are 3 options. If I have a backup, that means the point in time restore. Remember, backup and restore we cannot do, right, in the SQL database. Or a sample database, then it will be AdventureWorks Lite. Since I'm migrating the database, so I'm just creating a shell of a database, nothing in it, right? And then I will just go review and create. So this will take few minutes to create. Let's look at this. So it has deployed. It has generated the script. So you can look at the schema. Okay, it errored out. Okay, everything errored out. Okay, because it was not able to find the database there. So database at the target, a database has to exist first. So which I'm creating right now. I should have created first and then started the migration. That's okay.
Amina, you might want to turn off your video because we're having some lag on.
Okay, let me see. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Let me see if I can. There's no cancel button here. Okay, I canceled it and wait for that to create it. And you can see the details that how it took. It has been 1 minute and 19 seconds so far since it's creating. So you can see the information here. So it's created. So if you want to see that how long it took, you can just create, and it shows 1 minute and 36 seconds it took to create this. empty shell of a database here. So right now we are in the database. If we want to in the logical server East, I have two databases. One was created from before. This one we just created here. So let's go back to the tool again. And we will just do the migration. Give it any name. The SQL database, that's fine. Works. My logical name. Okay, I will. So now we have this database to receive it, right? So okay, so now go to next. Okay, so
while
we will.
We're waiting on that.
Okay, go ahead if you have questions. Yeah.
Don't have any questions. I'm just having a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Actually, my company uses managed instances, and we do all of our stuff in the cloud. We truly love it. I've done several migrations over the years, and this is one of the easier processes. It's actually easier than the version I actually work with a lot. I usually do a command line version of this, and it works great. The actual GUI you're using seems to be even easier than what I'm used to.
Yeah, I mean this is so this is for Azure SQL database, and then it is for, see, now we are not getting as much error because the database now is there. So and it's for Azure SQL VM.
Right.
For the VM and the, so this tool is for offline migration. We have another tool called in the Azure Data Studio, which we're now recommending starting from September. So it's Wednesday, it's going to be released. So let me just show you quickly. It's a hot off the press kind of thing. So Azure Data Studio, many of you are familiar with or not, but not that. So this is the Insider Edition. So what is the Insider Edition? The regular edition of Azure Data Studio, that there is an extension for migration in the Azure Insider Edition. And this is available, going to come, or this Wednesday is going to release to the public also. So it will be, you will get the update, you know, so you will just update and then you will get it. Here, suppose I'm connecting to this here, and yeah, so it's connecting. And here is this Azure SQL migration. And this one is, you can do online migration to Azure SQL managed instance, to Azure SQL VM. And you don't need ExpressRoute or site-to-site VPN connection, because underneath it is using integrated, self-hosted integrated runtime. So it bypassing all that, and this is the go-to tool, and we are recommending it. Migration to Azure SQL database is not there yet, but it is coming. So that's why I didn't show you this tool. But yeah, if you find DMA easier, then this tool you will like much better. Okay. We close this. Okay. Okay, this is also here. All right, so this here in so I will go back to the slides so we can finish the slides. It's going to take a few minutes, and I'll keep an eye on it. I don't know if I'm not sharing my slide yet. Okay. All right. All right, so let's talk about the security. So we have a defense in depth approach here. So we have a layered security. And if you look at it, first, there is a first outer layer is the network layer, where the firewall and the ports settings comes in. So you have the logical server that I showed you. So that logical server, and then you have a database level also firewall rules. So you have two types of security in there. At database level, you can use this tsql command, spset database firewall rule, and give a database name. Second level is the access management, that you can SQL authentication for Azure SQL database, and you can control, right, at the SQL login level whom you want to give access to your database, right? And in case of managed instance, you can have the Azure Active Directory authentication. Also, you can control it that way. You can apply row level security so that so if you know how to use row level security, you create a function and the stored procedure, and then user, and based on the function, users will get permission on the data that they are permitted to see. So that's a row level security. Advanced threat protection is our new offering. It costs, but it's not that expensive. Per logical server, it's like $15 per month, but it provides protection against SQL injection, all the network related, and it related threat, and it uses the machine learning behind it, artificial intelligence, and it predicts. Now it will know from the workload that is coming that it is a threat, or it is going to convert into a threat, or this is something you should look into. It will provide you the alert. So this is a very, very useful tool. The fourth layer is your transparent. Less, 1.2, but for backward compatibility, we support 1.1 and 1.0. When client chooses it, they know the risk they are taking because it's not as secure as 1.2. And then transparent data encryption, TDE, is managed by Microsoft Key. For SQL database, we don't allow integration with Azure Key Vault, but for managed instance, integration with Azure Key Vault is supported. That means that customer can bring their own certificate and own key. Right? So Microsoft is responsible for rotating keys. The keys are rotated every 60 days or something. You don't have to worry about it because you are not responsible for it, and it's Microsoft responsibility for TDE. You can turn it off if you want to. That is available. Always encrypted encryption for column level encryption and dynamic data masking available. So just quickly look at that. If the user is coming in, first your database level firewall will be checked. If this one is allowed and user have permission, they will directly go to the database. If this permission was known, it was not there, then they will check the logical server permission, firewall rules, if that port is open or not. If it's open, then it will get the access to the logical server, and whatever databases are there, it will have access. It will be able to connect to any of the databases here. And if it doesn't, then your connection fails. So this is like when you're creating remember I chose at the installation time of database, add my IP address. If I have not done that, then I have to come from the Azure portal and add this. In the firewall setting, I have to add this, so this adds my client IP address. Okay, let's talk about HA versus DR. What is high availability and what is DR? I know we know all, or just to clarify that we are on the same page. Any continuous availability, which is in the end, and this is local, right? In the same region, you can fail over to the machine, which is local to you, which is in the sub-seconds, you consider it as a high availability. Business is running continuously. Disaster recovery means it will take you some time to come back up from the disaster, and usually something big has happened on your primary region that you have to recover in the another region. And usually that disaster recovery node is usually in the different region for that purpose. So there is a time lag, right? You have a recovery time objective and recovery point objective that you have to meet. In high availability, it's SLA you are meeting, right? If you're using availability group, it's a synchronous replication. For high availability and disaster recovery, it's always going to be asynchronous replication. Uptime is measured in percentage, SLA percent, like 4 nines. If I say 4.9, so that's the high availability percentage. And in disaster recovery, we say, okay, recovery point time is 15 minutes and recovery time objective is 5 minutes, whatever like that. And so what is availability zone? It is a high availability offering that protects against the data center level features. So consider the East US region. It has multiple data centers, which are zones. So think of a data center as a zone. Okay. In redundancy available. Sometimes 2-3 data centers are considered as a one zone, but for simplicity purpose, just think of one data center as a zone. Each data center is protected by their, they have a separate network and lines, and then they have a separate power and everything. So look here in the region here, we have multiple data centers. So you have a zone redundancy here. So inside the one zone, you have the redundancy at the hardware level. So your data is in one of these servers. This is one rack in one data center. This is another rack in the same data center. Your data copies are available here. So locally, this is a local redundancy. So local redundancy available, then there is a zone redundancy available, and then you can have another region, and then there will be a regional redundancy available. So there is a layers of redundancy that is available for you. So yeah, I will just skip this slide. We talked about it. Okay, we'll talk about here this one. In case of, let's look at the basic standard and general purpose. I mentioned that one replica is available for failover out of the box. So you have your Azure SQL DB. Suppose your logical server has some VM. We are not concerned about what hardware is the logical server. Wherever your databases are here, right? So your data and log files are in the premium storage in the Azure. Remember, I showed you in these tier premium storage, but it is not local. It is remote from the compute. So your TempDB is on SSD, which is local. So that means your buffer cache, your query, cache, these are all local here. So if this server goes down, something have SQL Server.exe process dies here, suppose. The Azure Fabric will fail over it to the another available hardware. So that it will bring the SQL Server exe here, and then it will connect to your data and log files here. So that's how we guaranteed 4.9 that your availability here. And this replica is not readable. It's just for failover. Once it failover, it becomes primary, and this is you are available to read from it. Right? In premium and business critical, you have 3 secondary available. So this is the primary, right? And you have 3, and your data is local to SSD drives. So your data and log files is there. Backups always goes to the standard Azure storage. So one of your replica will be read only also. So this is two of them will be available to failover. So they can be in the same region or they can be in the separate region also. So right now it's showing you in the same region here. So these are 3 available to you. Okay, let's go. Okay, so another availability solution available at the database level is the geo-replication. So databases can be replicated in the same region or in the different region. Here you can see it's showing you in the different region. This was my database. I'm geo-replicating in it. So this you pay. This is not in the box. You pay for it. This database. So this will not be an automatic failover. You always customer will decide when to fail over. It will, you decide, and you or your application can decide when to fail over to the logic. So it's per database basis, just like availability group. It's a per database basis, right? And here. But availability group is not a good example, because availability group you can fail over multiple databases, but this your application is per databases there. You can have more than one replica. You can have one in the local region here, one in the secondary region, another in another region. Maximum 4 replicas you can have, and those replicas are read only also available, so they are readable. On top of the geo replication, you can create a failover groups. So what failover groups does, it fails over multiple databases from the primary logical server to the secondary logical server. If you have only one database, then you're failing one. But if you have multiple database, you have 10 databases and you chose 5 of them to fail over together, then you create a failover group and you fail it over here. The next slide will show you the difference between or similarities between GeoDR and auto failover group. So first of all, Azure SQL Database supports both of them. Remember, I mentioned automatic failover is not available. You have to failover manually. In failover group, both are available, manual failover or automatic failover. So remember, this fails over multiple databases. Fail over multiple databases simultaneously? No, it's for single database per database. Yes, this is for multiple database. After failover, update connection string. So in GeoDR, since you are doing the manual failover, you have to update the connection string. But if your databases are on GeoDR, but they are also part of the failover group where multiple databases fail over, then it has been taken care of. You have a read only listener and you get the read write listener. So the Azure SQL detects that if now this second node is primary, and it will, whenever you connect to the connection string, the primary string read write string will always connect to the primary one, whichever is the current primary. And the read only will always connect to the secondary one. Can be in the same region, yeah. GeoDR can be, but auto failover group can only be in the another region, not in the same region. And you can only have one auto failover group. You cannot have multiple copies, multiple instances. In database cases, you can have up to 4 replicas. And in both cases, the secondaries will be readable. So let's jump into the demo. We have some time left. I can just finish this, but this is not important. What I want to show you that this database I have created in the failover group. So to create the failover group, you are in the logical, any logical server. I was in East and I created the failover. I just said add group and provided the information, and it created the failover group. I provided this name. And then I added the database. So at that time, I only had one database. So I added, right now it doesn't, because I have already failed it over. So that's why it's not, I failed it over to the west. Let me do the forced failover. So currently, the primary is the west server. I tested the failover. So now I'm going to fail it back to the east to make it a primary here. So just bear with me. So it will take maybe 1 minute or less than 1 minute. It fails over. And while it's doing that, let me connect. So what I'm connecting to, before that I should have showed you so look at the listener here. Read write listener is the resource, failover group name. It failed over already. It's doing okay, and then database.windows.net. I can connect to it, and whichever is the primary, it will connect to that. Secondary, just the secondary in the name, and whichever will be secondary, it will connect to that. So let me connect to both of them in the Management Studio. So I have This is the primary connection, remember? And this is the secondary connection. So I will check, which one is which with this query here. And if I go here, look at the databases here. So I only have TestDB in the failover group. AWS 2070, I have not added it, right? So I want to check if this database is readable or which is the primary. So let's open a new query. And I can see that the logical server east is the primary server and it is read-write. So this connection string remains the same. If you have put this in the application, you don't have to change it, right? And now if I look at this one, TestDB. Make sure I've selected the TestDB. This is only read-only because this is secondary. The logical server west is the secondary. So just quickly, we are almost at the end. I will fail over again. And when it's complete, it's almost, it's almost done. I'll show you. I don't think I have anything else here. That's the PowerPoint. So let me, it's done. Okay. So let's go back and so it was read-write, logical server east. So let's run this again. This logical server west now is the primary and read-write. So look at this. This is the primary. I'm connected to the read-write listener. So now server west and read-write, and now it will be the east. Still happening. Okay, so it has failed over. The logical server west is primary and this is the secondary. So that's all I have. If you have any questions, we have 3 minutes. No questions? Yes, something, is frozen here. So do you want to, anyone has any questions? I cannot hear, so I think Kevin. Hello, Kevin. Okay, guys, I have to go. I have a meeting. Sorry about that. If you guys don't have any questions, then I would thank you for attending, and I would leave. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.